It's 8:25. You're watching Breakfast Television. Welcome back. This week, the Canadian Mint released a coin to commemorate the advancements by the LGBTQ plus community. That coin is very important, but it's also a little bit controversial. We are joined by SFU's Elise Chenier. Elise, you are from the Faculty of Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies. Obviously, this fits within your realm. Tell us, first of all, about what this coin is celebrating, honoring, commemorating.
Great. So in 1969, the federal government, under Pierre Trudeau, passed Bill C-150, and that was a sort of liberalizing sexuality very broadly. So it made abortion, therapeutic abortion, available in some circumstances. It made divorce more readily available, and also it slightly modified some of the laws regulating same-sex acts in Canada.
Now, was this a significant decision at the time, or act?
It was enormously significant at the time. As you'll know from the news, some of the critics of it are arguing it wasn't really as significant as is being implied by the issuing of this coin.
Okay, and you're right, this is interesting, and we have a clip from one of the critics. Let's take a look at that.
One of the things that we argue here is that decriminalization is actually a myth. It's putting all this emphasis on 1969, which from the historical perspective, based on the evidence, didn't actually accomplish anything. Instead of actually taking this opportunity to highlight something from our community's history.
So many of the critics are saying maybe the coin should be highlighting somebody, an individual from the community that pushed forward the rights for LGBTQ plus and the community.
Yeah, I think that's a really good argument. I mean, a lot of the substantive changes that we've seen over the past 50 years really have been driven by activists on the ground, not by the government. The government has been responding to that kind of activism. Nevertheless, though, I don't entirely agree with that criticism. I do think what happened in 1969 was really significant in a certain kind of way.
A starting point, if you will.
Yes, it certainly opened up a conversation, and it changed the conversation. You know, when you have your national leader in 1969, when to be a gay person was you were completely marginalized. You were considered a sinner, immoral, you were considered a criminal, and you were considered to be mentally ill. To have your national leader say, you know, it's really none of our business what happens in the bedrooms of the nations.
Which were his words, exactly.
Which were his words. Now, that's a limited change, but it's a really significant change.
So a jumping off point, if you will, but of course these things take time and there's still a long ways to go. You know, where are we and where do we need to get to, in your opinion?
Well, I think, you know, there's the first thing for me that comes to mind is sex workers. People don't often see that as an extension of the kinds of debates we were having in the 70s about sexuality and sexual oppression, the way in which the criminal law, and that's really what this is focusing on, the way in which the criminal law oppresses people on the sexual margins. So certainly sex workers are one of the most vulnerable groups today. Some fights have happened in the past 5-10 years that have been really significant, but still a lot more work to do there. And if I can say one more thing, I also see a link too to the murdered and missing Indigenous women. Ways in which certain groups of people are not seen as meriting the same kind of protections as other Canadians are. So that's sort of the way I see how the struggle is, and that's where I see the work that needs to be done.
Equality isn't perfect yet. Everybody isn't on that same plane. Certainly
not, but I think, while I really appreciate the criticism that's being put forward and agree with a lot of it, I also think having a coin does have a certain kind of value. I like to imagine, you know, a young person in Alberta, when Jason Kenney is making it even more difficult for just your everyday gay youth to come out, having that coin in their pocket, I think, is a powerful thing. So maybe someone like me who enjoys all the benefits of what we've gained so far, it's not such a big deal, but for a lot of people, that's still a really big deal.
Very well said. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it.